So he's back in the United in the last few weeks because I heard the manager saying he's doing really well in training. Eriksen's not going to close the gap on Liverpool and Arsenal, Man City. Absolutely not. Good experience. So he's coming out after the game a couple of weeks ago, and he's actually said, no, I'm looking at him going, even if you feel that, and it has happened when you thought they wanted it more than you don't bloody say it, you fool, do you? But he's coming up going, they probably wanted it more than us. Someone should get a grip of it going, what are you sending them messages out about us for? We go and say we're the disappointing result, but we'll bounce back next week.
In this next clip, you will see Roy Keane go off on one about the current state of affairs at Man United. He talks about attitude, desire, commitment, and individual players. But there is one thing he mentions which is on the button: the attack. This Manchester United team doesn't score enough goals. As the old saying goes, the best form of defence is having a good attack. Stick around after the clip because I will explain exactly why this Manchester United team don't score enough goals and what they need to do to improve this horrific stat. Here's Roy.
No, definitely not. So what do you make of them?
Are we supposed to be surprised? Because we're having the same conversations every couple of weeks. They're not good enough. They're too open. Don't score enough goals. So what's happened the last week or two? Is that the norm now? Then there's pressure on the manager. He needs a result next week. It's not. Listen, the sending off didn't help certainly. But even I go back.
Before the sending off.
Yeah, but I even go to the FC the 20 game, and then when the players came out after the match, I think it was Eriksen again, a really poor game, and oh my goodness. And when players are coming out going, I think they might have wanted it more than us.
That was Eriksen, yeah.
I know it was. I kind of gave up at that stage. If that's the noise that's coming out of the dressing room, then no wonder the manager's in trouble. No wonder they're not going to win football matches. That's it. But that's where United are. It's hit and miss. They'll win a few games, but they're going to lose plenty. That's it. They're just too open. They're not athletic. They don't score enough goals. I'm not sure there's a team there. Let's go back to that. I'd love to know what the culture is at the training ground. Who's putting demands on each other? Who's pushing each other? Who's helping the younger players? Are the senior players proper when they're 1-0 up against FC 20, get the job done instead of a player coming out afterwards going, I think they might have wanted a bit more than us.
What did you make at the weekend of him leaving out De Ligt and Martinez?
Well, he's been chopping and changing that even during games, but that seems to be the norm now, doesn't it? He doesn't stick with his settle back four. He'll obviously maybe see on the back there the tough game in Europe, but surely part of the demands of playing for any big club is that you can play 2 or 3 games a week and cope with it.
You're relying on Harry Maguire against Porto, but then
if you're going back to Harry Maguire, you are in trouble.
But I think he always has the right attitude.
Oh, Jill.
No, but he does. Like, he come on in that game. He come on in that game. They needed him. The Porto
See
game
the goal.
like...
But just look at his defending for the equaliser against FC 20. Just look at him. Forget everybody else.
Yeah.
Just looking for that goal. And if you think he's the answer, the problem is United...
I don't think he's the answer, but I do think he
But you can't keep going back to Maguire and Eriksen. So they've gone back to... For the last few years, they're saying they need recruitment. They made lots of changes. They get rid of Fred. They get rid of McTominay. They make changes. Centre-halves, Maguire. But no, they've gone back to... Maguire and Eriksen have been back in the team the last few weeks. So you've gone back to the lads who were part of the problem. I'm not saying just on their own, of course not. But if you think Maguire's the answer...
But the new lads aren't the answer either.
Yeah, but the new lads need a chance. They need to get a couple of games, a couple of months to build up relationships, play games where they get used to each other. I'm not saying
that's why I was surprised on Sunday of De Ligt and Martinez.
Gary, over the last few months, he's took him off during games with 20 minutes to go. He's brought in that's what he does, the manager, and he's pretty stubborn. That's part of being a manager. You have to be stubborn.
But do you think, like Jill says, do you think he gets till Christmas?
I don't know. You probably know better than anybody. You said the board meeting. I'm sure clubs have board meetings all the time. I'm sure they're constantly discussing the manager and recruitment and staff or whatever. But United was always, to me, about like good people and good characters and people who could play for Man United and deal with it. But I don't see that now. I don't recognise this team. I don't recognise the club. Everyone a couple of months ago said they've got new people coming on board. They'll have all the answers. More money on recruitment, and United are going backwards. They're chopping and changing. They're getting rid of everybody in the background, which is fine. There's a business side to it. We know that. But no, when we're discussing Man United, it's more like a business than a football club. Football club is about people and good people who turn up and put a shift in and who are good, honest people. Because we all work in sport. We work in different environments. It's about working with good people. And what I see at Man United, stepping back a little bit, and it might be harsh, I'm not sure I'm seeing proper football and people, and they're making the right decision for the club. It's more of a business thing. You're having board meetings. Everyone seems to know about these board meetings. Why can't they have these meetings without anybody knowing about them or where they are? You can't tell me they can't find a nice little hotel in the lakes or somewhere. No, I'm serious. Why do we know all this?
I've got one on Saturday.
No, but why do we know all this information? Why is this public knowledge? I'm sure
I think
we still think, listen, for people even who played for other clubs, you'd still admire Man United. We admire Man City. You admire teams. You go, if people throw a team at you, go Man United. You always go, well, I'd like to think they'll be entertaining, and I think they'll get goals and they'll have wingers and all that. You go, but United aren't even that. United.
But Roy, I think that's really easy to explain me. Three things. One, set pieces. I think they're really poor on set pieces. So that's one big way of which teams score goals. Secondly, do you have enough players in the team who've got a record of scoring goals? No, they don't. I mean, they've got Rashford, who, to be fair, has had a couple of decent seasons, and Fernandes, who had a couple of decent seasons. Other than that, no one in that front line or midfield have got a history of scoring goals. And when you haven't got that, your combinations, patterns of play are where you get chances. So when you don't have patterns of play or combinations, which, to be fair, are repetitive, you never know when to make a run in the box, so you never know when to actually, to be fair...
But that was the same last year, Gary.
So my point is, these three things contribute to the no goals. It's not like, they're just having a bad run of form. These three things, they're not good enough on set pieces. They haven't got enough players in the team who score goals.
But that was the same last year.
Xerxes and Højlund don't score goals.
That's the same as last year. So we're sitting here going, what about United the last few weeks? But it's the solutions we need to sort about, because that's going to continue. That's not going to change with the international break or Christmas or January. But are they going to buy more players in January? More players again next summer? Is it just putting...
Well,
I think
you know what I wanted to say?
And I know people get sick of hearing it. I'm always looking at the kind of... I always visualise myself in that dressing room. What kind of dressing room is it? And when I hear players talking after a game, you always say about United, when you played for them, you go, hopefully, listen, we've got a really good team, hopefully. But you'd be disgusted when we played, and we can only go from our experience. I would be disgusted if I came in after a game and I felt another team wanted it more than us.
They wouldn't do that if you was involved.
No, but the problem is, you try and make sure that never even crosses anyone's mind. That you go, today we just kind of go through the motions, our skill and talent won't be enough. No, it won't be enough. You have to... Gary, we used to say to people, listen, lads, you were there, remind people who you are, you were Man United, remember what... And you have to bring something to the party, and that is that pressure, the expectation, but enjoy all of that stuff. And that, again, didn't we say we were winning every week? There was times we won nothing, obviously, but you'd embrace that Man United, the badge, the history, the part of it, the wide players, entertainment. I know sometimes you have to sit in, and I like when teams sit in, but when you watch Man United, you're hearing people all going, it's even the Villa game at the weekend, a bit, and I hate using the word almost kind of boring, that type of scenario. You go, really?
But all those things that need to be instilled by people who were there as captains.
Well, I don't know. But
that's what needs to happen, because are we supposed to think that all of a sudden Man United are going to get a manager in and then all that's just going to click into place?
But the senior players at the club, you're on about Maguire. These players have played 68 international football, played in big tournaments. You got World Cup winners. You had Veranda, lads who've won the Champions League. I'd love to know what they're doing at the training ground every day. Who's pushing? Who's getting hold of maybe the younger players who might be making mistakes? That's fine. We've all been there. Who's getting a grip of all these players? You're on about decision making and managers. Harry Maguire walks into United, obviously new club for him, and the worry for me is Harry comes into the club, whatever it was playing style, he's given the captaincy. What does that say about the rest of the group? That he's just walked in. He's not even had a year or two at the club where you go, listen, he's learned what the club is about. So that was unfair on him, 100%. But even Eriksen last week, I'll go back to Eriksen, sorry. Eriksen's an experienced international player, right? Vastly experienced. So he's back in the United team the last few weeks, because I heard the manager saying he's doing really well in training. Eriksen's not going to close the gap on Liverpool and Arsenal, Man City. Absolutely not. Good experience. So he's coming out after the game a couple of weeks ago, and he's actually said, no, I'm looking at him going, even if you feel that, and it has happened when you thought they wanted it more than you don't bloody say it, you fool, do you? But he's coming up going, they probably wanted it more than us. Someone should get a grip of it going, what are you sending them messages out about us for? We go and say we did a disappointing result, but we'll bounce back next week.
But do you think them players...
Listen, we'll sit here all day and we talk about coaching badges. We've all played hundreds of games between us, won big trophies. We go. So I think at some stage, whatever, we've all played in teams having a difficult spell. We've all, at international level. But the thing you always hang your hat, or you go back to it from your DNA, is that pride.
Yeah.
Your pride that your family are watching. You got fans who've travelled, who've paid a lot of money. That's your foundation of your career. You've obviously reached a certain level where you can pass the ball, you can score goals. We know that. But really, the stuff that keeps you going every single day is my pride. My pride from my teammates, from myself, from my family, from my team I grew up with in Ireland. But all that seems to be with this United group, it's... No, well,
yeah, but where are they going to get it from, Roy? Who's going to tell them that if it's not someone like yourself?
You have to find it from somewhere. But
yeah, but you're the person that should be doing that. No, you should be doing that. I'm listening to
you.
Something to do.
Everything what you're going on about, who's going to do that culture reset for them?
They've got to create something. And you know what, even when you're having a difficult time, you're on about the manager chopping and changing. Even if you look and go, I'm going to stick with this back four, certainly for the next 3 or 4 games, I'm not chopping and changing. I don't care if we're 4 up or we're 4 down. You're going to try and learn to play it together, whether it be Brucey and Pally, as if they didn't have bad days. But over the months, they get used to get a bit of chemistry. But if you're chopping and changing the back four, or you're changing centre halves with 20 minutes to go in a game,
you can't change centre halves. You can't change centre halves.
Before any problem can be fixed, first of all, you need to understand exactly what the problem is. The problem is precisely that they don't score enough goals. This team never looks like it can score a goal. Man United have an excellent squad. This is the most balanced squad since 2009. There are lots of young players with high ceiling potential like Garnacho and Menu. It's got lots of good players in their prime like Rashford, Martinez and Bruno. And it has plenty of players with experience of playing at the highest level in Casemiro, Evans and De Ligt. There is just so much depth. So why can't it score goals? The answer to that is Erik ten Hag is not playing to the strengths of the squad that he currently has. To play the exact style Ten Hag wants United to play, which is possession-based, high line, work the ball into the box, it requires players capable of doing that. The team is 85% there to be fair, but it lacks the wingers capable of unlocking the defences. Rashford and Garnacho are not the correct profile of player to fit into this system. Players like Lamal, Foden, Rafael Leao of AC Milan, and dare I say it, Mason Greenwood would have been perfect for this style. They're all good with the ball at their feet and can pass and score at close quarters. But Rashford and Garnacho, Diallo and Antony are either not suited to this style or are just not good enough. So how to fix this horrendous goal scoring problem with the players that we currently have? The answer is fairly simple. Ten Hag needs to swallow his pride and adjust tactically to a style and or system that suits what he's got. Garnacho and Rashford are United's 2 best wingers, and their main strengths are speed and finishing ability. Close control and passing aren't their forte, so if they are always going to start, then a system needs to be employed that utilises their strengths. Low block, counter-attack would be the best strategy. Invite pressure from the opposition with a solid enough defence to be able to cope with this, and then once we win the ball, utilise their speed and hit teams on the counter with blistering pace. A front 3 of Rashford, Højlund and Garnacho would be a devastating front 3. Alternatively, if Ten Hag is insistent on playing a possession style, then that would require a change in formation. A diamond formation would suit. We've got excellent central midfield players in Bruno, Eriksen, Casemiro, Menu, Ugarte, all players more than capable of playing possession football in the middle of the park. Add to that the inverted fullbacks in Dalot and Mazraoui, then they could pack the midfield and hold onto the ball no problem. This would require Ten Hag to make the big decision of dropping Rashford and Garnacho, because Højlund would need a partner up front and the most likely candidate would be Eriksen. 2 big lumps like these two causing havoc in the box would be a handful for most teams, and Xerxes' ability on the ball would be more suited to this style than Rashford or Garnacho. Formation, style and personnel need to be aligned to maximise results. If Ten Hag wants to maintain his style, he needs to change his formation and personnel. If he wants to maintain his formation and personnel, he needs to change his style. And at the moment, he's being far too stubborn. He needs to be made to realise that the first thing he owes his employer and his fans are results. Get that right first, then focus on making it pretty. Results give you a lot of leeway to experiment and play, but unfortunately, time and leeway are running out for Ten Hag. Something needs to change. Ten Hag currently has it in his power to change this. I hope sooner or later he does before someone changes it for him. Time will tell. But what do you guys think? How can Man United be fixed? Thoughts in the comments please, and if you like this video please like, share and subscribe.